Hi guys, my name is Sam. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you my November wrap up. I am gonna get into the 6 books that I read this month, but first I'm going to briefly go over the DNFs that I had because there were a few more than usual. Next year in my 2024 reading journal, I'm going to try to be more adamant about using my DNF section because I feel like I don't have that many thoughts about why I DNF these at the moment because it's been so long. But usually during my reading process, I'll keep my phone on hand to write things that annoy me or things that I like about the books that I'm reading. But 9 times out of 10, those notes get lost and or deleted before I even have a chance to film this video. So I'm going to try to be more adamant about taking notes on books that I DNF as well. But, you know, let's just get into them regardless. So the first book that I DNF'd this month was All the Feels by Olivia Dade. I read this via audio for about 15% of the book, and I just felt like the characters were really immature. Like, they were in their 30s and they were making fat jokes, and the main male character was referring to her as Nancy McClake, which I don't even know who that is. Didn't bother to look it up, but I'm assuming it had something to do with her personality being a little more on the boring or stoic, or like, you know, not necessarily out of her shell side. And it was just like, this is the man you're gonna fall in love with, who's like making mad immature jokes about you. But anyways, yeah, I just couldn't follow through with that. It was giving me the ick. The next book that I DNF'd was Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. This was a book that was not on my TBR wheel. I picked it up to try and finish a bingo for the violence book club that I'm in. I ended up getting a bingo in a different line. And good thing too, because I did not want to read this book. Like, it was just boring, honestly. It's supposed to be about a reality TV star who refused a proposal live on television and is getting a lot of backlash for that, meets a football star who has a cupcake shop, and I think she ends up getting a job with him. But honestly, I didn't even make it that far because she was just so rude and snotty and seemed to be like she thought she was better than everybody else. Another book that I DNF'd this month was Good Game by Madison Fox, and I know this is a crazy book to DNF with all the hype that's surrounding this via BookTube right now. But I don't even remember how far I got into it. I want to say it was only 10%, and we already had an instance where they had just met. She was one of the like waiters or hostesses at a gaming awards event, and she was serving their table, and he literally got up, pushed himself against her, and basically said something along the lines of, "Oh, I want to feel what you feel like under that dress." This is like first encounter. It's not giving. I need some build up, and also it's giving sexual harassment. Like, you don't even know this girl. You don't even know each other, and you're telling her like you gonna fill her up underneath her. You know, I'm not even gonna say too much. If that's what you're into, by all means, but it's just not something that I vibe with in my reading. I guess you can say that I'm more of a slow burn person, but also it don't even have to be slow burn for real. It's just, that was not too fast. Like, that's crazy. So I just couldn't read that book. And then the last book that I DNF'd this month was A Love Letter to Whiskey, which was the SUNY Readers Book Club pick for November. And that one I just DNF'd because there was just a bunch of back and forth with cheating and betrayal and all this. And I found it funny that when I attended the live show for this, Dana had referenced this to be similar to After, which I loved when I was like 13, which is when I read it while it was on Wattpad. I never continued on with the series after it was traditionally published and all of that jazz, but that was definitely a book I remember staying up all night reading with my cousins. So hearing it be compared to that and having such fond memories of that made me laugh because I absolutely hated this book and I just couldn't put myself through that. So I wonder if I reread after now, if I would hate it the way that I hated the, the cheating tropes and all the back and forth in this book. I actually did watch the series on Netflix while I was pregnant, and I loved the movies. So I'm not too sure, but I found the comparison funny, but I just couldn't put myself through reading this book. So that was that. So in total, I DNF'd 4 books this month. That is definitely more than my norm. Usually I DNF 1, maybe 2 books a month. So it was kind of crazy for me, but I still got a fair amount of reading done, even though that was the case. So let's get into the books that I did read and how I felt about them. So the first book that I read this month, which I actually started at the end of October, I just didn't finish it in time for the live show for the Swoonie Readers, was Right Move by Liz Tomford. And this one is the second book in the Windy City series, following Ryan, which is Stevie's twin brother, and Indy, which is her best friend. And this is a basketball fake dating romance. So ultimately, I had similar feelings about this book that I did about the first one, which was that I love the relationship and the banter between the characters, and the cast of characters in general are very charming and lovable. And I also really enjoyed being able to see Stevie and Xander's in this book as much as we did. However, for this book specifically, the constant miscommunication was really irritating to me, especially because between Indy and Ryan's chapters and their point of views, we got a lot of internal dialogue where they would like build up these assumptions, or if they were the ones having the problem, they would talk about how they felt, but never actually tell the other person. So it made for a much longer story than necessary, because 9 times out of 10, all they had to do was say something, because the other one was almost always feeling the exact same way. And they were both just like, oh, I don't know, I'm too scared, can't say this yet. So it really annoyed me, not because it happened at all, because I'm not one who completely dislikes the miscommunication trope, but just because it was very, very repetitive. So similarly to the first book, I felt like this book was too long. And I think that was another reason that I didn't finish it in October, because I'm pretty sure I was more than 70% of the way through before October ended, and just started to drag for me. And so I had to really push myself to finish it. So for that reason, I ultimately gave this book a 4-star. Same with the first book in the series. And the next book that I read, that I probably will never stop talking about until the day that I die, and I'm actually mad that it took me this long to pick this book up, was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. And I say that because I have seen a lot of people talk about this, and 9 times out of 10, they're bad reviews or mixed reviews, like, oh, this is not that good, it's too long, there's they didn't like certain aspects of the story. Specifically, I can remember watching Chandler review this and dislike it. I believe she gave this a 3-star. And she's somebody that I watch avidly on BookTube. Not to say that we always have similar tastes when reading books, but I do take a lot of what she says to heart when she reviews her books. So sometimes I'll put off books that maybe I would end up liking because she said that she disliked something about it. And that was the case with this one, because I absolutely fucking love this book. 5 out of 5 stars, infinity out of 5 stars. Come on now, what can I really say? What can I say?
What can I say? What can I say? What can I say?
Everything about this was chef's kiss. And also, this was the first book that I read that had suspense aspect to it, and I absolutely ate that up. Mystery thriller is one of the only other genres, like I say multiple times on my channel, that I really have a liking towards. So having both of them in one, where I know there's going to be a happy ending between the couple, but also getting that little bit of thrill, was absolutely perfect for me. The only bad thing that I could say about this book is that at times I found Knox annoying, especially near the beginning when he was just internally discussing his attraction towards her and always came to the conclusion that she was too much because she had standards, and basically that she's the type of girl that wants a relationship as opposed to just wanting to be friends with benefits, or just having a fun time and not actually committing to somebody. That was annoying because it's like having standards doesn't make you too much for somebody, but it's fine. We forgive him because he came to his motherfucking senses. And if you haven't read this, please go read it. It's a fave. It's a fave. I didn't even tell you what the book was about. Sorry. This book is about our main character named Naomi, whose evil twin sister cons her into coming to her hometown in order to steal money and her car from her, leaving her 11-year-old daughter waylay behind and causing Naomi to have to stay in town to raise said daughter, not really knowing where this is going to go, if her twin sister is going to come back, if she's going to have to move to this town and uproot her entire life. And we follow her struggles from there, as well as her getting to know like everybody in the town and But anyways, like I said, fave. Please go read this. The next book that I read was The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I actually buddy read this with Karina. God bless her for being my first ever buddy read. Love her so much. This book follows June, who is trying to break her family's curse that she really doesn't know what it is, except for they all end up losing their minds after a while and going crazy. This book was so good. This was my first Adrienne Young book, and I can honestly say I understand everyone when they say that her writing is really atmospheric and beautiful. As far as the plot goes, this book had me intrigued and confused the entire time, and me and Karina did a 80 pages a day buddy read, so it was really hard sometimes for me to stick to that and not want to keep reading because I had no fucking idea what was going on until the very end. The book kept me guessing, and the plot twists were phenomenal. Like, there was really things that I did not see coming at all. With that being said, towards the end of the book, there were still questions that I had that I wish there was a little more clarity on. So ultimately I ended up giving this book a 4-star just because it still was a little confusing for me, and that kind of took me out of the story sometimes. The next book that I read this month was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, which follows a doctor named Alexis who has a one-night stand with a small town carpenter named Daniel and struggles to make him fit into her world. This book was another one that was absolutely amazing. The freaking, like, this book made me laugh out loud so many fucking times, and the romance between the two characters was so sweet. Daniel as a character was such a golden retriever boyfriend. It was honestly so endearing to read. Similarly to other books with miscommunication, that was really the only problem that I had with this book, because I felt like Alexis had a lot to say about how her and Daniel could never work because he was from a small town and she had to follow this legacy that her family had built, but she had never let him know that. It was always an internal conversation that she had with herself, which I found to be a problem, because had she gave him a little more insight, a lot of things wouldn't have been misconstrued between the two of them. However, this still got a 5-star for me. That could easily be overlooked for the love and the comedy and the dog and Daniel. Like, let's get into it. 5 out of 5 stars. I can't believe that I haven't read this until now. So, and I can't wait to read the next book this month for my Wheel of TBR. The next book that I picked up was actually a replacement for my wheel, which was Just Don't Fall by Emma Sinclair, which I replaced for reading something off of another booktuber's TBR, because the original book I had DNF'd, and this was on Dana's TBR last month. This is a rom-com featuring Logan and Parker. It's a brother's best friend, childhood crush who comes back into town after being demoted from the NHL to like a local hockey team, and she just so happens to be the social media manager for this team and the players. So this book I felt like had a lot of good jokes. So again, the comedy aspect really did it for me, and the love was pretty cute too, but the story's pacing was super off. Like there was a lot of gaps in timeline, and you kind of missed them building their relationship. Like it was just missing. I don't really know how else to explain that except for the fact that we don't really get to see a lot of the substance of what they were doing in order to build up to being back together. This book also had the miscommunication trope, which I'm starting to realize maybe it's something that I actually do not like. Because in this one, she also had the internal dialogue of, is this fake? Is it still fake? Because they were fake dating, but neither one of them wanted to have the conversation of whether or not things were getting to a point where they were real when they were, and they both knew that they were, but they didn't want to tell each other. So it was kind of like having a lot of internal conflict of, is it still fake? I don't want to say that I think this is real. Do they think this is real? So that kind of took me out, especially because we didn't get to see them building the relationship in the first place. I have very few scenes of them going out together and exploring their feelings, but we always got the, is it still fake? Like, we just kissed, we just did this, we just did that, but we didn't get the insight. So ultimately I rated this book 3 stars. It was still a good time, but it just lacked in the substance of the relationship for me. And then the last book that I read this month was The Mistake by Elle Kennedy, which is the second book in the Off-Campus series following John Logan and Grace. And honestly, this book just fell short for me, especially compared to the first one. The relationship was poorly paced. They met, they talked for a couple weeks, they got into a fight, then she was gone for the entire summer. He tries to win her back when she comes back, and then like all of a sudden they're in love. And it just, like, where was the build up? Where was the groveling? Well, there was groveling, actually. Let me not say that. There was groveling, but we didn't personally get to see the groveling. Like, she had this whole list of things he had to do, and it was just like, they showed us 2 of the things, not really how he did them or how he got them done, but they give us a little bit of insight, and then it was like, okay, well, now you can take me on another date, and now we're in love. That really bothered me. And then to top all of that off, they had a third act breakup or conflict that was stupid to me. I felt like Grace was being unreasonable because Logan was going through a really tough time with his father, and she was just like, oh, if you don't want to explain to me, or if you really think that I won't be here for you, then fuck you. But it's like, bitch, I'm still like feeling my feelings. This just happened. I'm going through it. I need time. I need space. Not everything can happen on your timeline. And just because someone is there for you doesn't allow them to take away from what you're feeling and expect you to talk about it right away or in that moment. I don't know if that's just me, but that's personally my feelings about the topic. So because of that, I ultimately gave this book 3 stars. I'm still going to continue on with the series because they're following different couples, and clearly the relationships and the context within them are worlds apart because the first book was a 5-star for me. So I'm hoping that the next book is better. That was everything that I read and or DNF this month. Let me know if you agree or disagree with some of my thoughts. I would love to hear about it down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.